Hello and welcome to another Breakthrough Expansion tier list. I'm Innocent Bubbles, and joining me today is ChipFilledAdam, say hi.
How's it going?
And DynamoD, say hi.
Heyo.
So this is, I believe, the fourth in a 5-part series we're doing, where we're going to go through the new expansion cards for Breakthrough for each nation, and we're going to analyse them and put them on a tier list simply based on draft. Now, please do take in mind that we are not considering ladder or constructed at all for this. We are purely talking about draft when we rate these cards on our tier list. And let's just go ahead and get right into it. The Jager Regiment. Dynamo, where do you place these guys?
I think this is a B tier card. Looking at the stat line, not that impressive, but I think where this card really shines is the -1 operation cost with the pincer. Works really good with any blitz card, which really gives it credit efficiencies, what we're looking for. So really solid. Bad stat line, not what you're going to drop on turn 1, but it's a good combo card.
Yeah, Adam, do you agree?
Yeah, overall, like Dynamo was saying, stats-wise, not terribly impressive, 2-1 for 1. Pretty mediocre, all things considered. However, its pincer, when combined with tanks or 2 operation cost units in general, can really give you that extra edge on credit efficiency that you're needing to stay ahead on curve.
And then Lightning Strike. Adam, where do you place Lightning Strike?
Well, Lightning Strike, all things considered, is a pretty bad card. It's definitely D tier. It's the same amount of damage as an Air Blitz for only 1 credit as opposed to 3. However, it has this extra wrinkle where it's a countermeasure and it only actually goes into effect if your opponent draws extra cards in their turn. So given how draft is random and there's no guarantee your opponent will actually get card draw, it's not a very reliable way to deal 3 damage to your opponent, even if it is very credit efficient.
Dynamo, do you agree?
Yeah, you're looking for credit efficiencies, and I mean, worst case scenario, you're spending 1 credit to do nothing. There could be better uses for that 1 credit. Could be to attack face, trade, or even drop a unit. This is not a great card.
And Dynamo, the U16, where do we rate this?
I pick it as C card. It's a discard card for 1K, very credit efficient, but you got to put this into a discard archetype, which is very hard to do in a draft. So it's definitely lower in my tier list. I'm going to give this a C. It does shine when the opponent is top decking. Pop the U16. It kind of negates his turn, but something I kind of steer away from.
Sure. Adam, do you agree?
Yeah, going off of what Dynamo was saying, it really kind of requires you to have more of a discard archetype deck built around it for it to truly shine as a card. It's a little bit similar to U375, which is 1 credit more and discards a random card from the enemy's hand. Whereas this one lets the enemy choose what they're discarding. Sometimes that means you could be discarding higher value cards the opponent just doesn't see as useful at the moment, which could give it extra value, but at the end of the day, it's not discard you can control, which means the enemy gets to keep exactly what they want.
And then 87 Grenadiers, where do you place these guys? Adam?
Well, the 87 Grenadiers are not that great stats wise. 2-2 for 2 is below the general curve. US has 3K units that are 4-4 for 3, and even 5-5 for 3. I know we're talking about a 2K unit here, but the stats just don't quite line up. It does have this funny little wrinkle where if you get a countermeasure to go off while it's on board, it gets +2/+2, which makes it then a 4-4 for 2, which is great, but you have to have countermeasures for that to work, and then the enemy has to actually trigger them without this thing dying first. And that can oftentimes not be very reliable.
So the ultimate verdict for what tier?
C.
C tier? Dynamo, do you agree?
Yeah, you're not. This deck is based around a heavy countermeasure deck. When you're drafting, you can't guarantee you're going to get those countermeasures. Very inconsistent.
And then the Beefswagen. Where do you place the Beefswagen, Dynamo?
Stat line wise, not very impressive. 2/2, the 2 health really hurts, but where this card really shines is you're getting 3K of value if you can take the front line. So I'm going to throw this as a B tier. It's a great value where you can trade quickly and get something board presence really quickly. So definitely a B tier, nothing more. 2 health really stings here.
Yeah, is that good with you, Adam?
Yeah, the Beefswagen is kind of just a different Panzer 35T, you know. Its deploy effect lets it get onto the front line on turn 2 if you have it in your starting hand and your first unit doesn't get removed or the enemy doesn't take the front line. But it doesn't have blitz, so it can't attack in that same turn, which means you kind of lose out on 2 damage versus it, which ultimately gives it a slightly lower rating. B tier is solid.
Sure. And then rapid engagement. Where's this placed, Adam?
Rapid engagement is A tier for sure. The ability to make a ground unit immune to orders or pin, or pin, really is pretty strong. Ultimately, though, you're not really going to want more than 2 of these in your deck because there's not all that many units you're going to want to play this on. This is best combined with strong late game tanks like a Panther A, or even Panzer 4 F2s.
Dynamo, do you agree?
You're looking for consistency in draft. This card has a potentially to be a dead card in hand. But on the flip side, this has a very strong passive effect. There are some great cards that would combo well with this piece. So I'll keep this as an A. Very strong, very situational.
And then the Voss. Where do you place the Voss?
I believe this is a C tier card. Stat line, it's not that great. German has a 3K with better stats. This has a passive, which very hard to pull off. You're not going to have a lot of countermeasures in your deck. So it's definitely a C tier. Very mediocre stat line. Very hard to get the passive.
Sure. Adam, do you agree?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, mediocre stats, cool passive, but not reliable. Just
and then
C.
the FW200 Condor. Where do you place the Condor, Adam?
The FW Condor is definitely an S tier. If you see this, you should pick it. It's basically just a cheaper Hamden, except it can't attack face the turn you deploy it, but usually you're going to be using this to trade efficiently on the board anyway. You can think of this as a recyclable from the people, basically. Sure, on the first turn you play it, it's a little bit more expensive than a from the people, but you get to keep this unit on the board and you can keep using it every turn for just 2 after that.
Sure. Dynamo, do you agree?
I think where this card really shines is the early artillery removal. Artillery is really strong, and having removal for that artillery can be very rare in draft. This card fills that niche, and then you get, like Adam says, a 3/3 body afterwards. Beautiful card. I give it an S.
And then Dynamo, the Stug 3G. Where do you place this?
I believe this card is an A tier card. Me and Adam really struggled with this one. Very strong card. You've got a 3K 3/4 stat line with 1 operation cost. That 1 operation cost is just beautiful. If you compare it to any other 3K cards, those stat line, you're looking at a 2K cost. So very strong in that front. Then you add the pincer with heavy armor. It's just beautiful. This very strong card. I think it's just an A tier, not an S tier, but very good to pick. I would snap this up pretty quickly.
Yeah, Adam, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything Dynamo said, right? 3 attack, 4 defense, pincer with +1 heavy armor. If you can get that on even a somewhat tanky unit, that thing becomes almost unkillable. If you combine that with Panzer Grenadiers or even Fallschirms, other Stugs, there's plenty of early choices that you can stick that one heavy armor on, and it just becomes that much stronger.
Nice. And then the Infantry Regiment, the 81st, where do you place them, Adam?
I think the 81st Infantry Regiment is definitely an S tier pick. For 4 cost, you get 3 stats, or you get 3 attack and 7 defense, and then you get +3 attack when attacking HQ and guards. This unit hits so hard very early in the game. You can usually catch your opponent off guard with it if you can drop it on curve. And it has enough stats that it survives a lot of even strong nukes like hammers and other things like that.
Sure. Dynamo, do you agree?
Yeah, the stat line alone of this card is so great. You get this boy up to the front line. It's a 6/7. Gets guard and HQ. What can you ask for? One operation, beautiful. The only downside, obviously, is infantry. A little slow to get to the front line, but still, it's got some sticking power. Just great stat line.
And then Night Hunters, Dynamo, where do you place Night Hunters?
This is a great card. This is basically removal with draw. I rate it just as high as Sky Barons. Definitely an A tier card. The only thing that's keeping it from being S tier is that it's a countermeasure, not direct removal. So propping this for 4K can be a negative tempo for us, but still, nothing more you can say that negative about this card. Really good, really strong.
Yeah, Adam, do you agree?
Night Hunters is a very solid countermeasure. It's an instant destruction no matter what they're playing, so you can really win big if they're dropping a big unit and not taking into account that you've saved the 4 credits to play this. But if they do know how to play around it and they have a smaller card in hand, you can get hurt a little bit. But at least it still draws you a card, so it cycles itself. All in all, definitely an A tier.
And the Pack 40, Adam, where do you place the Pack 40?
The Pack 40 is really only a C tier. 4 cost for a 2/2, not very impressive. It does have ambush, and it does deal triple damage to tanks, which, if your opponent doesn't have good removal cards, makes this pretty good at sticking, but with only 2 health, that can easily be taken out with patrols, gunship missions, double sickle, pretty much just about everything.
Sure. Dynamo, do you agree?
Yeah, artillery is really strong in draft, but where this card really hurts, it's the 4 cost. Dropping this on turn 4 and with the 2 health, there's a lot of options that can get removed. I think what the shining star of this card is that it can trade with almost every single tank in the game except par for a few. But I think just the 2 health, 4K just really hurts it. C tier card.
And then our third countermeasure for the day, Entrapment. How do you feel about this, Dynamo?
So this is an interesting card. I think you could put it in S tier, but you could also put it in C tier. We kind of agreed to put it on this an A tier card. Very strong, really strong effect. Removal with the buff. I think what really kind of wrinkles in this is it's 5K, and if you're floating 5K, the opponent can somewhat sniff it out and play around it, which can be a negative tempo for us while they build their board. So yeah, it's a weird card. Really strong, but can be very, very bad. So I put in A tier. Even if it procs, it's really good. So
yeah, Adam, anything to add to that?
The real beauty of Entrapment is that when you play it, if your opponent attacks the turn when this is up, whatever unit they attack with and whatever they're attacking, that unit's going to die. And if you have units on your board, they're all going to get a +1/+1 to them, which is a very strong momentum swing, especially if you can hit a unit of equal or even just slightly lesser credit value for what the countermeasure costs. But again, as Dynamo said, if your opponent knows how to play around it, if they're somewhat ahead on the board and they have space to go wide, floating those 5 credits can really, really hurt you.
Sure. And then the Hornets See. Adam, where do you put the Hornets See?
I mean, the Hornets See is just a D tier. It's pretty bad any way you look at it. 7k for a 3/4, and then it has this weird effect where the next card you draw, you deal its credit as damage to the enemy HQ. It's funny, but like this thing won't actually survive to ever use that, and even if it does, you won't have high enough credit cost cards to make it actually worthwhile. So definitely just avoid this like the plague.
Yeah, Dynamo, do you feel the same?
Yeah, this is the definition of bad tempo swing here. You're spending 5 or 7 credits to put something on the board, no instant effect. Any 4K card can trade with this, and you don't get the effect. Really bad. It's a meme card. It needs to be protected, which spends more credits. It's just bad all around.
And then our final card for the Germany tier list, the Reich Research. Dynamo, how do you feel about Research?
So this is a multi-tiered card. I think as a package, it's a B-tier card. The reason it's a B-tiered card is where it really shines. 3K, you get a V1 bomb, which can take out any 3K unit, which is a beautiful on curve. Really strong card. The 6K synthetic oil, very situational. You need to have the cards in hand to use it efficiently. The 9K card, U-boat, really strong card. Discard 3 can be very good on turn 9 when they're really low on cards. Put them in a bad situation, and it's probably the worst 12K effective out of the research. I would put that as a C. So this research is all over the map, but I think where this card really shines is the V1 bomb, and you should pick it just for that.
Sure. And Adam, do you agree?
I think Dynamo hits the nail right on the head with this one. I mean, the 3K, quite strong. It's basically just a 1 credit more expensive, hits 1 credit more expensive version of Sudden Strike. The 6K is pretty difficult to use in draft, so you probably aren't going to go for that one very often. And the 9K is just a better version of Annihilation for about equal credit cost. Playing 2 Annihilations costs you 14 credits, playing 1 U-boat costs you 15, and they both essentially remove 4 cards from the opponent's hand and board.
Yeah.
And Iran Project is just very, very underwhelming.
And there you have it. That is our Germany tier list for the Breakthrough expansion. Thank you for joining me today, Dynamo and Adam. And
Thanks, Bubbles.
we will catch you guys in the next one.